I'm just going to show the headline. SARS-CoV-2 infection started from a child, and nearly 70% of COVID-affected U.S. households. Go back to school. Go back to school. The kids are immune. Not true, by the way. We know it causes developmental disabilities. We know it causes brain damage in kids. There are kids that have gotten COVID that are, 3-4 years ago now that are missing certain developmental milestones. Walking late, still crawling, at the age of 4. This is other shit I've read. Open the schools, kids are immune, but they bring the virus home and kill their parents. According to the CDC, 99% of people in this country under the age of 18 have had COVID at least once. Now, I have had COVID 0 times. I have not left my house. But 99% of kids under the age of 18 have gotten COVID at least once. At least once, because we stopped counting. So most of them probably have had it 12 times because they're forced to go to school every day. But we count one and then job well done. This fucking shit, I'm so sick and tired of living in this country. I'm so fucking tired of being in a country of fools. Of witnessing parents abuse their children by sending them to a public school system that is killing them. And them. Not just the children, but it's killing them, the parents. I hate living in a country like this that abuses children to such a degree. Now, I am someone that believes that school in this country is in the same situation as police in this country. Schooling in this country is inherently abusive, and the system needs to be completely eradicated and reformed and start from scratch. That's my opinion on schooling. I have the same position on schools as I do on prisons and police. I think schools are garbage. Right? Schools exist to torture children, to force feed them things that are not true, and to destroy their ability to think critically and to be creative. Schools are designed to turn human beings from beautiful, lovely creatures into drones and workers. That is what school is in this country. Now, there are some exceptions. I'm not saying every teacher is evil. I'm not saying every teacher is in on the scam. A lot of teachers are trying their best in a system that is designed for them to fail. It's designed for them to fail. Now, I do believe that there are good teachers. I don't believe there are good cops, but I do believe there are good teachers. People become teachers because they want to help kids. And then they realized, oh wait, the school system is designed for me to do the exact opposite. %70 of COVID-affected U.S. households started from a child. I haven't even read the body of this yet, but just think about this. Just think about it, man. Yeah! While kids were the least affected by COVID-19 disease, now I just want to say this. That is untrue and unproven. We don't know how kids are affected yet. Now again, I have seen studies that have said that children have been born with COVID, right? Their parents had COVID and recovered, theoretically, right? Recovered, right? Because we live in this world where people think you can recover from COVID. like people think, oh yeah, I because I'm no longer sneezing right now, I've recovered. Anyway, so parents who recovered from COVID gave birth to a child that has COVID. Right? And we also know, again, COVID has been around for 3-4 years now. We know that there have been studies that have found that when babies get COVID, it can affect their brain development. We don't know exactly how COVID affects kids. All we do know is it affects kids differently than it affects adults. That's all the information we have, is that it affects them differently. Now, dummies are going to read that as, well, they're immune. Yeah! As soon as you turn 18, like, your force field goes away or whatever the fuck in these people's minds. Right? But really, the only thing we do know is that there's different effects depending on your age and what other risk factors you had. If you're obese, COVID is going to affect you differently. If you have heart disease, COVID is going to affect you differently. If you are a child, COVID is going to affect you differently. If you are an amputee, COVID is going to affect you differently. If you're immunocompromised, COVID... It's pretty fucking basic science. But Americans, a little too dumb for that, so... A study suggests that 70% of nearly 850,000 U.S. household transmissions of SARS-CoV-2 virus originated with a child. The study published in JAMA Network Open showed that younger children were more likely to spread the virus. Oh, wow! Who could have guessed? Who could have guessed? You mean kids that fucking spit all over and put toys in their mouth? Right? Like those kids are spreading germs? Whoa! Ooh, wow! Like, the idea that it's a surprise. That we're children. And somehow, like, I know that, like, you know, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which I'm sure most Americans have in some degree, you know, forces us to forget massive fragments of our childhoods. But I mean, we all were children. We all put toys in our mouths. We all spit for fun. I mean, I just spat for fun on my show. Like, and we're supposed to act like it's magic that somehow kids are transmitting COVID more? Like, that's just magic? We don't know the mechanism? Boston Children's Hospital's research team gave smartphone-connected thermometers to 848,591 households with 1,391,095 members who... Jesus, these numbers. I mean, I'm glad they're precise. Because it's, you know, I prefer precise numbers rather than rounds. Who took 23,153,925 temperature readings from October 2019 to October 2020. Fevers were a proxy for infection among 166,170 households with both adult and child participants, 51.9% of households with multiple participants. There were, Jesus fucking Christ, there were let's just skip all this. In these households, 38,787 transmissions occurred, 40% of which were child to child, 29% child to adult, 20% adult to child, and 9% adult to adult. So it turns out kids are COVID factories. It's almost like we knew this 4 years ago, and that's why we closed the schools 4 years ago. Does anyone remember that? Does anyone remember when we shut down the schools? Because kids were spreading the virus? And then the virus got more transmissible, and it got more infectious, and then we opened the schools because Joe Biden. Right? We all voted for Joe Biden because he's going to fix COVID. What was his first thing he did? Open the schools, and then COVID skyrocketed. Of all household transmissions, 70% began with a child, with the proportion fluctuating weekly between 36 and 87%. Children aged 8 years and younger were more likely to be the source of transmission than those 9 to 17, 7.6 versus 5.8 percentage. During most of the pandemic, the proportion of transmission from children was negatively correlated with new community COVID-19 cases. More than 70% of transmissions in households with adults and children were from a pediatric index case, but this percentage fluctuated weekly. Once U.S. schools reopened in the fall of 2020, now again, not all U.S. schools opened in the fall of 2020. There were a lot of holdouts in a lot of blue states, right? So, but a majority of schools did open during Trump's last couple months. But when Joe Biden came into office again, he mandated that every other school that was holding out has to open, right? So that's a factor. The researchers said the finding that pediatric COVID-19 transmission was negatively correlated with new community cases during most of the pandemic is consistent with that of a previous study. When the incidence of COVID-19 increases, adults in the community are at higher risk of infection. This may increase the likelihood that adults become the index case in a household transmission and explain the negative correlation we observed. Also, when the COVID-19 incidence is low, overall use of non-pharmaceutical interventions might decrease, leading to increased incidence of non-SARS-CoV-2 pathogens, which may be more common in children. The team concluded that children had an important role in spreading SARS-CoV-2 and that in-person schooling also resulted in substantial spread. Now, if I haven't explained on any of my shows why having kids in the year 2023 is a bad idea, I hope this is added to the list. Again, I'm just blown away. I'm blown away. And I shouldn't be. I shouldn't be blown away. As a kid, I used to believe, as a child, I was lied to. I actually believed that adults were smarter than me. I actually believed that. I don't know how many of you believed that when you were a kid. I don't know if that's common. But I actually and genuinely believed that adults were smarter than me when I was young. And it really wasn't until COVID that I have fundamentally reversed that. I think kids are smarter than adults. They might have less trivia in their heads. They may have less memorized flashcards of capitalist disinformation and American mythology in their heads. But on average, kids are smarter. They care more about other people. They love other people. They want to play with people. They just want to be playful, loving animals in a world that is designed to break them. And it is fundamentally true that, I said this before, but the average person having a child in this country, when it comes to their mental age, their emotional age, the average child bearer in this country is probably 3 or 4 years old emotionally, maybe 5 or 6. Because when kids are 3 and 4 years old, they're traumatized by their parents. They're abused, right? The average, the norm, is that adults abuse their kids. That's the normal thing. Now, when I was a kid and when I was being abused, I thought I was special. I thought I was uniquely awful as a child. And I didn't know that other kids probably had similar levels of abuse. Now, I think I had it pretty bad compared to the average, but if kids aren't abused and broken when they're children before school, school does the last punch. First grade, second grade, kindergarten. This is where children's humanity goes to die, is in early years of elementary school. Once you're in 3rd, 4th grade, your personality is pretty much ingrained. You can talk to 2nd grade teachers, and they can tell you with extreme accuracy. There have been studies that have said 2nd grade teachers predict the outcomes of their students. And then 20 years, 30 years later, they compare the predictions to what actually happened with those people. And they found that with a good amount of accuracy, 2nd grade teachers can predict how people will be in 20, 30 years. They can predict if someone's going to be a drug addict. They can predict if someone is, going to be poor, or they can predict if someone is going to go to college and get a diploma and become super smart. And again, like, I don't even know what to say about this shit. I mean, it really is. Like, we live in a broken fucking country. We live in a broken fucking world. We live in a destroyed fucking world. The world has been destroyed. It's just over. It's over. I see this, and I have no faith that this species will even survive. Climate change We did nothing. We've known about climate change for over 100 years. We did nothing. We've known about the flu for 100 years. We did nothing. I watch a lot of movies. And now, I don't want to, take it too seriously here, but just think about this as a soft metaphor. When the climax occurs in a movie is when shit gets real. A phone call is placed and a character has been shielded from the events of the movie, fundamentally, learns something and they get thrust into the action, main characters start dying, people start doing their final speeches. I don't know, man. I'm starting to feel like we're in the last third of the movie here. I'm starting to feel that we're in the last 5 minutes of the movie here. And now our movie is not 2 hours. Our movie is billions of years. But I feel like we're very close to the end. I have no hope. There's all kinds of polls that say, people, millennials, Generation Z, they have no hope for the future. How could you? Having hope for the future makes you a schizophrenic. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. If you genuinely believe that the future is going to be great, I'm happy for you. But it's fundamentally, it's not real. In the same way that, playing with toys and having your Lego figures, punch each other. And, that's not real. They're not actually punching each other. You're doing it. Right? So, again, if you believe that there's hope in the world, that's all you, bro. You are manufacturing that hope inside of your brain. I don't know how you're doing it, but it's not real. It is fundamentally illogical, irrational, and not real. There is no hope. When we live in a country where 80% of adults! These are grown adults. Refuse a vaccine that is free, safe, and effective. 80% of adults have said, nah. 93% of adults in this country don't eat vegetables. They don't eat vegetables. Americans don't eat vegetables. I mean, that shit, I've said that a lot. The fiber statistic, I know this. But that shit, it never fails to blow my mind. It's just that, again, fundamentally, the average adult, emotionally and mentally, is 4 years old. A calcified 4-year-old. Not a 4-year-old with hopes and dreams. Not a 4-year-old with an active imagination and a cheerful demeanor. But a 4-year-old who has been frozen. A 4-year-old who has slowly been withering away. You ever watch Dragon Ball Z? Anybody? Where are the anime fans at? Yeah, raise your hand. Does anyone know the guy Cell? What he does is he sucks people's life force. I remember watching that shit when I was a kid. I was like, damn, that is, I don't even know how that's possible to show on TV. But when Cell is sucking their life force and they get drained away, they become gray, they get wrinkly, and then their skin falls, right? That is the average American up here. They're just a wounded child who, instead of dealing with their wounds, decided to lash out and fuck everyone else up. That's why 80% of adults are so fucking dumb that they don't get a vaccine. And the same way that the kid doesn't want to take their medicine, adults don't want to take their medicine. In the same way that the kid needs the airplane for them to eat broccoli, adults don't even have an airplane. I don't know what to say, man. I wish I could do this show and be happy and do all that stuff like the other guys do, but I can't. I'm depressed. I'm not going to lie to you. I am depressed. Both when it comes to the news, when it comes to the world, and just on a personal level. I am fucked up. I am at the end of my ropes here. I don't know, like I just experienced my fourth birthday in isolation. Now again, all of my other birthdays were in isolation. But like, I don't know, man. I thought I would become an adult. I'm 27. Right? I thought 4 years ago, I'm an adult now. I can start going out on my birthdays. I can start getting drunk on my birthdays. Now I just get drunk in my bedroom, alone, watching kids' cartoons. That's what I do. Because there's nothing else. It's over. I don't know what to tell you. I'm done. I gave up. You would ask me the version of me a couple years ago, I would have believed. COVID. This is it. Literally, the government, Trump, remember when Trump was in office and everyone was like, Trump's trying to kill us with COVID? I thought that, I know, right? I thought people would be like, oh shit, the government's denying that there's a pandemic. People are they're gonna do something, right? No, they just voted for Joe Biden, who said the same thing, the same lie. Trump lies, you're wrong, Orange Man. Biden lies? Well, all right, Jack. So, I don't know, man. I'm done. I'm done with caring about the world. I'm done with pretending that, I mean, like, you ever see these fucking pointless conversations? You ever see this shit? People talking about, we need to affect public policy by making these reforms. No reforms are going to change this. No, like, it's all a waste of your time. The only way that this country would ever possibly get its shit together, that I'm convinced of, is if people break from capitalism. And I mean that very seriously. I think most liberals, I think most leftists in this country, people that identify as left-wing, are still capitalists at their core. People that buy flashy things just to look cool, people that buy fancy clothes just to fit in, you're a capitalist. I don't give a fuck if you're fucking wearing a Che Guevara shirt or a fucking whatever. You're a capitalist. You're buying soda. You're addicted to Wendy's. You're a capitalist. Actions speak louder than words. You're going to restaurants in a pandemic. You're a capitalist. I'm sick and tired of being gaslit. I go on YouTube. I go on Twitter. I go on political subreddits. I go on political Discord channels. And it's a bunch of leftists, self-proclaimed leftists, behaving as capitalists. And I'm not saying you can't be a leftist and have nice things. But what I'm saying is, we need to define what nice things are. Why do you do things? Why do you buy certain shoes? Why do you buy a certain kind of car? Why do you buy a certain kind of jewelry? Is it because you like it? Or is it because you want other people to treat you differently and oftentimes better? Do you want to wear fancy shoes so that people look at you with envy? You're a capitalist. Now, again, I'm not saying we can't have things in our lives. Things, items, materialists. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, things that you like and you purchase, things that you interact with should benefit you and only you. Don't do things for other people. Don't do things for approval. Don't buy fancy shit just because that's the script that you were brainwashed as a kid to believing that success means I have a fancy car. Do you need a fancy car? No, you don't. Do you need those $400 shoes? No, you don't. Do you need that super 5,000 studded gold necklace? No, you don't. Now, if you want it, that's a whole different story. Again, I have a lot of shit. I collect video games. I don't collect video games for other people to look at me with envy. I don't even show my video game collections. I don't talk about my video game collections. I used to, but I don't anymore. I don't care. I do it for me. And that's how people should behave. They should stop worrying about how other people feel about them. And this goes back into COVID when it comes to masks. Do you take your mask off because you don't want people to look at you funny? You're a slave. You're not free. You're not free. You're not free. If you do things at the behest of others, you're a slave. Oh, I'm afraid of being asked the question, why are you wearing a mask? So I take it off. You are not a thinking person. You don't have free will. You're a sheep. And most people in this country, they don't even know it. They don't even know it. They genuinely don't even know how fucking deep the shit they're in even is. Now again, I'm not saying you can't have nice things, but what I'm saying is actions speak louder than words. If you are a self-proclaimed leftist and you don't care about COVID, you don't talk about COVID, you're not a leftist, you're a capitalist, and you're a neo-Nazi. That's it. I really don't care. I'm sick of these motherfuckers. I'm sick of people compromising. I'm sick of people using right-wing arguments. I'm sick of right-wing framing. I'm sick of left-wing YouTube. I'm sick of all these motherfuckers. This content economy. Are you fucking kidding me? This content economy where we're all fucking incentivized to talk about some stupid shit that fucking Ron DeSantis said. Meatball fuckface Ron is saying some shit, so every left-wing YouTuber's got to do their fucking rebuttal. It's all a bunch of noise. And I don't care anymore. So anyway, that's how I'm feeling. I'm depressed. I don't know what to tell you. I'm depressed. And if you're not depressed, I mean, you got to get me something that you have. Because I've tried a lot of drugs. And they help sometimes in the short term. But overall, I am fucking at the end of my ropes. So, there's your COVID segment. There you go.